Good evening. I would like to call to order the June 4th, 2024 Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting. We would like to welcome those in attendance as well as those watching at home or streaming online. Madam Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Director Miller,
I'm here.
Director Richardson, Director Peck, here, Director Hines,
Present.
Director Lewis, Director Wyrick,
Present.
Director Compuris, Director Phillips,
Present.
Director Adcock, Vice Mayor Webb,
Here.
Mayor Scott.
Present. And just, Madam Clerk, just to make certain you saw or heard Director Lewis. She's on.
Okay.
I didn't think you saw her.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My pleasure. We'll now recognize Director Wyrick for the invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to do this.
Thank you, Director Wyrick.
I'm going to do this on behalf of Joan. She had some issues she had to take care of before she gets here tonight. She'll be here about probably 6:30, or she may walk in the door. I don't know. But I'm happy to do the prayer for her tonight. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to meet here in this public forum to work on the issues for our city. Heavenly Father, thank you for all of our city employees. Thank you for our mayor, our assistant city manager, our clerk, all the board of directors. Everybody here is trying to make a difference in our community. And Lord, I know that's what you would like. So be with each of us tonight as we attend this meeting and as we travel home. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. May we please stand for a pledge of allegiance? Members of the City Board, Vice Mayor, virtually, I'm here today to present two different proclamations. First and foremost, we'll ask the folks with the National Home Ownership Month to please approach the podium. Which consists of our leadership team with the housing neighborhood programs, Kevin Howard, Tracy Shine, and Brian Contino. And the proclamation reads, whereas home ownership is the key source for wealth building and work remains to achieve fairness and equity and access to affordable home ownership for all Americans. And whereas over the past 5 years, our community has received a total of $3,751,244 in home funds and provided $381,944 in down payment assistance for 79 families, in addition to $372,996 in mortgage subsidy to 23 families to assist with down payment and closing costs for a grand total of $754,940 for 102 families. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development commemorates the 20th anniversary of National Home Ownership Month to amplify the benefits of home ownership. And whereas the annual observance of National Home Ownership Month provides an opportunity for HUD to amplify the department's efforts to support potential homeowners, increase housing supply and affordability, and ensure sustainability for existing homeowners. And whereas the City of Little Rock is grateful for the efforts of the men and women in the Housing and Neighborhood Programs Department as they partner with other government agencies, lending institutions, nonprofits, and other entities to provide enhanced opportunities for home ownership, and uses this opportunity to publicly thank this department and its Department Director, Kevin Howard, and his outstanding staff for their work. Now, therefore, I, Frank Scott Jr., Mayor of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim June 2024 National Home Ownership Month.
Thank you, Mayor Scott and Board of Directors, for recognizing National Homeownership Month in the City of Little Rock. As we celebrate National Homeownership Month, the barriers faced by many individuals and families to purchase a home that is affordable. My job as Director of Housing and Neighborhood Programs is to help residents achieve the dream of homeownership. Through our down payment assistance program and the Little Rock Home Buyers Program, we have assisted 102 individuals and families with that $754,000 that the mayor just discussed through our Home Investment Partnerships Program funds through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Those funds help these individuals purchase homes as first-time home buyers. The city has developed over 50 new construction units and 34 lots that we currently have that we're developing new affordable housing on currently. I would like to thank the Community Development Division staff that's led by Tracy Shine, all of the hard work in developing affordable housing to give residents the opportunity to achieve the American dream of homeownership. Beverly Arbor is also a part of that staff, along with Ricky Evans, Chantella Miller, Celicia Nichols, Christopher Young, Adrian Wyatt, Stephanie Hopkins, and Shamika Harrison. Special thanks to Director Miller, Director Phillips, and Director Adcock for attending our down payment assistance fair last Saturday that we held at Southwest Community Center. We definitely appreciate you all's support, and we definitely appreciate all of the community partners and the lenders and mortgage bankers and realtors that support the City of Little Rock as we help to achieve homeownership. Thank you, Mayor Scott.
We'll ask the family of Andre Nathaniel Franklin to please join the podium. All right. Whereas Andre Nathaniel Franklin, affectionately known as Dre, graced the world with his presence on June 4th, 1970, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the beloved son of Marie White Franklin and Donald Franklin. And whereas Dre's early life in Stilton, Pennsylvania flourished amidst the vibrant musical ecosystem of the Scott White Evangelistic Crusade, passionately led by the revered grandparents, Reverend Dr. Scott White Sr. and Mother Mary E. White. And whereas nurtured by a musical lineage rich in talent, including his uncles David and Ricardo White and cousins Jimmy and Scott White III, Andre's passion for music ignited at just 10 years old, leading him to play a pivotal role in a musical group celebrated in the Guinness Book of World Records for its historical significance. And whereas a standout student and athlete at Central Dauphin East High School, Andre's achievements on the football field were paralleled by his unwavering pursuit of musical excellence, solidifying his place within his family's prestigious musical ensemble. And whereas throughout his 3 decades in Arkansas, Andre's musical prowess shone brightly as he contributed significantly to various church communities and collaborated with renowned artists, etching his name into the heart of the music industry. And whereas embodying humility, grace, and compassion, Andre has been a pillar of support, inspiration, and guidance for countless aspiring musicians in the entertainment realm, earning the affectionate title of the Archbishop. For his dedicated mentorship and deep commitment to his community and fellow bandmates. And whereas the legacy of Andre Dre Nathaniel Franklin continued to thrive through his innovative and musical compassions and teachings, leaving an indelible mark on his hearts of those who have had the privilege of witnessing his artistic journey and benefiting from this wisdom. Those in the music industry here in the state of Arkansas, as well as in the city of Little Rock, affectionately know Andre as Dre and his many impacts that he's made to the state of Arkansas, as well as the city of Little Rock, and one of the great churches in the city of Little Rock, St. Mark Baptist Church. With that being said, we do proclaim today Dre Day. Thank you. Members of the board, if you were not aware, Mr. Franklin passed recently. Members of the board, we have one addition to tonight's agenda, item M1. Is there a motion?
So moved to move M1 to our consent agenda.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Added to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda along with item M1.
The consent agenda consists of a resolution to enter into a contract with Smart Automotive Group in an amount not to exceed $62,368 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of one Ford F-350 regular cab truck for the Parks and Recreation Department and for the purposes. A resolution authorizing the city manager to submit the approved 2024 annual action plan for CDBG home and HOPWA entitlement funds to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development and to execute the agreements with the approved applicants and for the purposes. A resolution authorized the city manager to enter into a contract with North American Fire Equipment Company Incorporated in amount not to exceed $66,640 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of firefighting protective coats and pants for the Little Rock Fire Department and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Redstone Construction in amount not to exceed $287,040 for the repaving of Fire Station Number 15, located at 8915 Canis Road, and for the purposes funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Lone Star Tactical in amount not to exceed $632,432.51 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of a burn building for the Little Rock Fire Department and for the purposes funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Arkansas Elevator LLC in amount not to exceed $89,629 plus applicable taxes and fees for elevator modernization at Fire Station Number 2, located at 524 East 9th Street, funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Motorola Solutions Incorporated in amount not to exceed $992,808.10 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of body-worn cameras for the Little Rock Fire Department and the Little Rock Police Department and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Versaterm Public Safety USA Incorporated in amount not to exceed $150,000 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of electronic document management software for the Little Rock Police Department Major Crimes, Special Investigation, and Internal Affairs Divisions, and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with WER Architects in amount not to exceed $120,000 to provide architectural design services for the Terry House located at 411 East 7th Street, and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Carson and Associates in amount not to exceed $325,000 for the renovation of the Stevens Community Center and for the purposes funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Join Construction in an amount not to exceed $620,000 for the renovation of the East Little Rock Community Center and for the purposes funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Positive Results Lawn Services Incorporated in amount not to exceed $81,546 for the Weston Court Drainage Improvement Project and for the purposes funding from the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution to amend Little Rock, Arkansas, resolution number 15,655 of April the 5th, 2022, to authorize the city manager to enter into a 7-month contract extension with 5 organizations in a total amount not to exceed $127,907.50 to provide for neighborhood safety programs and activities to the residents of Little Rock, Arkansas, in an effort to reduce community violence and increase public safety, and for the purposes, a resolution authorizes the city manager to reimburse the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau an amount not to exceed $500,000 for costs associated with site due diligence and pre-development costs for the River Market, and for the purposes funding from the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution to create the Friends of Mosaic Cultural Center Temporary Entertainment District for 1 day on June the 5th, 2024, and for the purposes, a resolution to consent to the outcome of court-ordered mediation in an amount from the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, not to exceed $245,000 to authorize for the mayor and city clerk to execute a settlement agreement approved as to form by the city attorney, and for the purposes, that concludes the consent agenda.
Move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read.
Got city.
Before we go, citizen communication. Will Tristine Lamb?
Hello. Hello, Little Rock citizens and Board of Director members and the community at large. My name is Tristine Lamb. I am a resident at a prosthetic clinic here in Little Rock, as well as an active community member. I will begin by reading this proposed resolution to support a permanent ceasefire and prevent further loss of human life in the Middle East. Whereas the events of October 7th and resulting military action have led to a humanitarian crisis affecting hundreds of thousands of families with tremendous loss of Palestinian and Israeli life. Whereas we agree that all human life is precious, no matter what their faith or ethnicity, that the city of Little Rock has a diverse population, many of whom have family, social, and business ties to Palestine and Israel. And whereas the Little Rock Board of Directors recognizes the importance of peace, safety, and the protection of all human life for individuals in our city, our state, our nation, and our world. Whereas the Little Rock Board of Directors urges our national leaders to do everything in their power to end the crisis and to begin the process for peaceful, sustainable solutions. Whereas we acknowledge that harassment, discrimination, and violence towards Muslims, Jews, and other nationalities and other minorities since October 7th are contradictory to the values that define Little Rock. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, Section 1, the mayor and members of the Board of Directors of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas state their unqualified support for a sustained and permanent ceasefire, life-saving humanitarian aid in Gaza, and the release of all hostages in exchange for political prisoners. And be it, Section 2, the City of Little Rock condemns anti-Palestinian, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, and all xenophobic rhetoric and attacks. And that is all. Thank you.
Dr. Hannah Warshawski. I apologize if I mispronounced.
That was pretty good. Hi, everyone. Okay. My name is Dr. Hannah Warshawski. I'm a resident of Ward 3. and I'm speaking to urge the City Council to pass a proposal for a ceasefire resolution. I am Jewish. I'm a counseling psychologist, and I'm a mother of a 2-year-old. If anyone here knows anything about Jewish mothers, you might know that we can be a little overprotective. And one reason why I'm here today is because I will always want to protect my neighbors, my people, and of course, my daughter, Alia. Her name in Hebrew means going up to God. Her name in Arabic is one of the 99 names of God. I am Jewish, and my husband, Isa, is Palestinian Muslim. When anti-Semitism is on the rise, as it is here, Little Rock and beyond, she is impacted. When Islamophobia is on the rise, as in here, Little Rock and beyond, she is impacted. I want to be able to tell her one day that the city she lives in supports kids like her. In a world where people think that Muslims and Jews don't get along, that Palestinians and Jews don't get along, our family is evidence that that is not true. I want to protect that truth. To be very frank, I know there are many who are reluctant to speak about this because they don't want to be anti-Semitic. Yet, there's nothing anti-Semitic about this resolution. Jewish teachings encourage us to preserve life, to practice peace, shalom, and to work to heal the world, tikkun olam. Therefore, how could a statement to end violence and preserve life, Israeli and Palestinian, be anti-Semitic? It's not. To me, supporting peace is an incredible Jewish response. The attacks on October 7th were obscenely brutal and traumatizing to a group of people that has been traumatized for generations. And the continued violence in Gaza is obscenely brutal and traumatizing to a group of people that has been traumatized for generations. So our resolution in Little Rock isn't going to change the course of what's happening in the Middle East, but it does bear witness to the suffering. A resolution like this, mind you, a very similar one was passed for the people of Ukraine. This resolution would mean the world to people in Little Rock who are directly impacted by watching images of people who look like their family being killed, maimed, starved, raped. People who are Jewish, Muslim, Israeli, Palestinian, Bedouin, etc. In Judaism, we have a saying, Lador Vador, from generation to generation, usually about passing down wisdom or a legacy. Right now, we have a choice in shaping the legacy of Little Rock. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Reverend Dr. Anika Whitfield.
Mayor Scott, with your permission, may I go last in our lineup? Is that okay?
I'll take that privilege.
Thank you.
Adele Ability.
You don't have to.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I know my last name is very hard.
Help me
Everybody
pronounce
get
it correctly.
My name is Hadil Abul Heja.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. My name is Hadil Abul Heja, and I'm a 4th generation Palestinian refugee. My great-grandmother and my grandpa survived the catastrophe in 1948 in Palestine. I come from a beautiful little town near Tiberias Lake, and it is the lowest freshwater lake on earth, and the second lowest lake in the world. It is situated in the situated in the northeast of Palestine, surrounded by the Syrian mountains and the Jordanian hills. The only thing I know about my town is the stories my grandpa tells me. Like sharing huge land with their Christian and Jews neighbors, harvesting together, sharing food, having play dates with their kids, living together with peace and respect. He said people used to come visit from all over to enjoy the special hot springs. Tiberia was also well known for very high quality and unique rugs, and the most expensive in the region. Nature was and still so green and beautiful. Indigenous Palestinians people were known for being builders, fishermen, and knitters. In May 1948, the occupation decided to take over the peace. My grandpa remembers as he was a preteen how they lined up men on one side, women and children on the other side. They would tie the men's eyes and they would shoot them execution style. He managed to escape with his mom and climb the mountains till they made it to Jordan. But before they left, they took their keys with them, as thousands of Palestinians did too. Certain they will go back in few days or maybe few weeks. The last sentences that some Palestinians said before they left their homes were, "Leave the pot on the stove. We will be back in few days and we will finish cooking. Leave your clothes. Take only a couple of them. We will be back. Leave your books. We will be back to schools." And even some moms grabbed the pillowcases instead of grabbing their kids because they were in a rush. But now, after 76 years of occupation, the closest I can be to my hometown is a hill in Jordan. The keys my grandpa grabbed, and my grandpa's face that's filled with pain. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Miss Michelle Swope.
Members of the board, Mayor Scott, members of the community, good evening. Our time is brief, so I will be too. I am here asking the city directors to consider our ceasefire proposal. October 7th did not mark the start of this conflict, but it showed the world that apartheid does not offer safety to anyone. It is just violence. As of today, well over 100 cities and municipalities have passed ceasefire resolutions similar to this one to recognize the full humanity of all people in Palestine, free all hostages, and end all hostilities. It is not just cities in the north either. Cities all over the southern United States, Wilmington, Atlanta, St. Louis, Greensboro, Durham, Charlottesville, and more. Why does Little Rock need to be on this list? One reason is thousands of people in this city want it. They've signed the petitions, they've sent the emails saying this. I want to be clear though, we are not naive. We have read the canned replies suggesting that we take this fight somewhere else. And I completely understand. Passing this resolution will not stop the genocide in Palestine by itself, just like when our city passed unanimously the ceasefire resolution for Ukraine. The war did not stop there. None of us in this room are close enough to the actual levers of power in this country to do much about the billions our government gives to war. But this is a small step in the right direction. Our city has a lot of sin to eat. Rejecting ceasefire for Palestine while endorsing it for Ukraine is to accept apartheid, one of our city's original sins. We have called this demon by many names over the years: segregation, Jim Crow, redlining, reservations, the criminal justice system, gentrification, or as my family called it, propriety. All of you in this room know that we have never really fixed this issue. If we organized by our zip code, this room would likely be fully segregated by the end. This ceasefire resolution won't fix that either, but it will be a step in the right direction of making our community safer for the people that live here. Past leaders have made the wrong choice. Our city leaders now can say that Little Rock demands safety, not apartheid, for its Palestinian and Jewish residents. We want integration, not ethnic cleansing. We want peace, not hostility. The question should never have been, why should we sign this ceasefire resolution, but what are we waiting for? Since we last spoke, almost 3,000 Palestinian men, women, and children have died. How much longer will the public record reflect our silence? Do something meaningful for your city. Your people demand it. Over the next 2 weeks, we would love to meet with you individually to discuss how we can make this ceasefire resolution work for Little Rock and work for our people. Thank you for listening. Ceasefire now and free Palestine.
Reverend Dr. Whitfield.
I would ask that all of my sisters and brothers come stand beside me because I'm not standing here alone. I'd also like to acknowledge that we've passed out the resolution, both the one that we are asking you to vote and approve, as well as the one that was approved in 2022, sponsored by Dean Compuras, that was unanimously voted for Ukraine. To the City Board of Directors, Mayor Scott, and all those who are in attendance today, I come to you as a doctor, a Christian minister, and a Little Rockian, urging the members of the Little Rock City Board to unanimously support our proposal resolution for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in the Middle East to help prevent the further losses of lives. We have witnessed the Little Rock Board of Directors and Mayor use your platform to make a stance about an international devastation, with the unanimous passing of a city resolution, as we stated before, in 2022 in support of Ukraine. In the city of Little Rock, the policy statement, in the policy statement, there is one of the means outlined to achieve a safe city, and it is by, quote, maintaining and improving community livability through partnerships with diverse communities by proactively addressing public safety concerns which enhance the quality of life for all. This statement to achieve safety in Little Rock is a part of the essence by which we come requesting this resolution on behalf of the Middle East. We come as Little Rock Muslims, Jews, Christians, believers of all faiths and of no designated faith. We are seasoned adults, teens, and children who are asking you to provide us with safety. In your vote, to resolutely call for the maintaining and improving of our community's ability to live and enhance our quality of life both here in Little Rock as well as in the Middle East. The devastating losses of human and animal life, habitat, and environment in the Middle East since October 7th has disproportionately been that of Palestinian children, seniors, homes, schools, libraries, faith houses, water and food supplies, as well as air quality. As the capital city in Arkansas, a city seeking to get results in the Rock and unite our city from being disconnected to being connected, we believe that it is incumbent upon our elected city board members to use your individual and collective vote to represent our call for peace and safety here in Little Rock as well as in the Middle East. You have the ability to do it. You have the ability to unanimously, resolutely call for the same safety in Gaza and West Bank and Rafah and in Israel as most of you who are on the board in 2022 did with Ukraine. Director Compuras, we're asking you to take some lead on this. And as for the rest of the directors—
Dr. Whitfield, the time is up, but if you do have
Yes, sir. One last thing to say. We will continue to reach out to each of you and ask you to give us not only your ear, but your support in hearing our desires for you to vote for this resolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We do appreciate you all. All right, we have Charles Wilson.
Good evening. I'm a resident of Ward 2, and I'm here to address the issues with our state and the lack of renters' ability to take action against their landlords. I moved here on April 1st from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Initially, I found multiple violations of city code with my home. I reported it to city code officials on April 5th. However, the company, which most of the large corporations in this state that are renting homes are following this exact problem. They're not adhering to the certificate of compliance program that was implemented by the city in 2019. In 2021, Act 1052 was passed by the state to address the issue that landlords are to adhere to housing standards of a local government. It has been now 2 months since I have contacted the housing authority here about my issue, and it has still not been taken care of. I want to know why the timelines that have been established by this council are not being adhered to by the departments of the city, and what actions we can be granted in this new article of renters' rights for a private right of action when landlords do not adhere to city ordinance. Thank you.
Director Howard, if you'll visit with Mr. Wilson, and then also Mr. Wilson, just for clarification, just so you're aware that the Housing Authority is not a part of City of Little Rock government. However, we keep a good relationship with them, so they'll listen to us from time to time. So Director Howard will get with you. My pleasure. Mr. Otis Green.
Hello, good evening, everyone. A pleasure to have this opportunity. My name is Otis. I am a resident of Autumn Park Apartments. I've lived in Autumn Park nearly 4 years. I am aware that city enforcement has inspected Autumn Park property and failed to find issues that are currently still happening in reference to the proposal you guys are voting on tonight. Those issues include water frequently being shut off, hardly without any warning to the residents. There is trash on and around the property. There has not been any Pest Patrol visit the property in more than 2 years. And these violations we would like to see be addressed. On behalf of Autumn Park residents, thank you for your consideration.
Mr. Ted, not Mr. Ted. Ms. Norma Huffman.
Evening, everyone. I've already come up with, I've come up here about Autumn Park. Gentleman just spoke, lives in Autumn Park, still not taken care of. There's also 2 other places. I have talked to Director Wyrick about it. I've talked to Kevin Howard about it, and the situation is still not taken care of. There is a house on Ted Burn Drive where the family is living in squalor. After months and months of this going on, a couple of the residents came to one of our meetings, brought this to our attention, gave them the phone numbers that I knew I needed to give them. The latest information, those kids are back in the house. They never left. Between me and Director Rarick and Director Howard, the police were contacted, fire department was contacted. These neighbors, along with me, have been in contact with PD. PD is now saying that the residents have to call code enforcement. Code enforcement is saying they have to call police. I'm trying to help these families out. These kids are in danger. Yes, there's finally power at the house, but that's after months of no power. They still do not have water. These people are literally using the bathroom outside. The smell is going to one of the neighbors' houses. Her and her child cannot go outside. She is brand newly diagnosed with cancer, and she is a single mother. The people across the street have been helping me out with information on when these people are there, but still, the kids are still there, and no one is helping. Another family on Fair Park, her apartment caught on fire 2 weeks ago. The managers are not wanting to give her her rent back. Fire department came out, told her it was not her fault, it was already an existing problem. Her stove caught on fire. Her and her kids have not had anywhere to go. She's a single mother of 3. We need help with these situations, guys, please.
Ms. Tia Johnson. Ms. Natia Johnson. Ms. Natia Johnson. Go one more time. Or we'll start with Ms. Sally Fitz.
Good evening, everyone. I want to speak on behalf of Autumn Park Apartments. I feel left out. I feel like people forget about Southwest when they consider Little Rock. People don't think of Southwest. They don't come help us, but I'm here today to let you all know we really need help in Autumn Park Apartments. We have the poorest living conditions I've ever lived in. There's loose dogs everywhere. We have children and elderly people who can't be running from dogs that are on the loose. There's tremendous flooding every time it rains. You can't walk on the sidewalks. You can't walk in the grass. You're just forced to step in mud and water everywhere you go. There's stagnant water, which brings bugs and all kind of diseases. Raccoons are running rampant around the apartments. They don't cut the grass, so then again, there's bugs and snakes and things of that nature. We're being infested with roaches and ants everywhere. Like one other person said, they refuse to come and spray or do any kind of follow-ups on our request to come spray. I've been out of air conditioning for a year and a half now. They haven't come and fixed my air conditioning unit. They won't give me a window unit to put in there, and I have a 10-year-old child. The plumbing has been backed up, and there's been many of times where the sewage has come through my sink or my bathroom tub. The water is turned off almost every other day, and last summer it was turned off daily, Monday through Friday, no water. So we would either have to go stay with family members or rent a hotel. And instead of them prorating the rent because of what we're going through, they have decided to raise the rent an extra $180. We're harassed to write reviews for the apartment complex. And my daughter's grandma, who has been staying in these apartments for 17 years, has moved as of Friday out of her home. That's the only home she's known. She's a Pine Bluff native, and she's been forced to move because of these conditions. So it's urgent that we get help out here. People are not just saying things. We're living this every day, and I still have to raise a child in this and go to a 9 to 5 every day knowing that the water will not be on when I get home. And some days I haven't been able to brush my teeth or wash my face before I go to work. So this is a serious matter. We need help urgently. And that's what I have to say about this. This is Autumn Park Apartments in Southwest Little Rock.
Director Howard, if you would, just follow up and send us an update on your conversations. Ms. Sally Pitts.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here this evening to talk to you in support of rental standards. And we not only need the standards on the book, but we need enforcement and remediation, as all these people have told us their personal problems. I'm here to represent the Age-Friendly Little Rock Commission, formerly the Mayor's Commission on Aging, and many of the people in these despicable circumstances, paying rent in apartments, are 55 years old and better. Many are disabled. I understand that the Public Housing Commission is separate from Little Rock, but standards need to be enforced. In at least 3 of our public housing towers, there are 300 people with 2 elevators, one of which is often down for repair. Now, in the event of a fire, those disabled people and elderly people cannot get out safely. So I'm hoping for some coordination with our new Housing Commission and the City of Little Rock to elevate the standards so that out-of-state landlords are not raking in the dough by abusing Little Rock residents. Please vote in favor of housing standards. It may not be a perfect situation. I'd like to be more inclusive and higher standards and more standards, but we have to start somewhere. I urge you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, members of the board. We have now concluded with the citizens' communication, residents' communication. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 16.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapter 8 of 1988 by adding Section 8-588 titled Landlord Responsibility for MF 18 and MF 24 Multifamily District and Article 10, Tenants' Rights and Obligations, and for other purposes. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapter 8 of 1988 by adding Section 8-588 titled Landlord Responsibility for MF 18 and MF 24 Multifamily District and Article 10, Tenants' Rights and Obligations, and for other purposes. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. Third and final reading.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapter 8 by adding Section 8-588 titled Landlord Responsibility for MF 18 and MF 24 Multifamily District and Article 10, Tenants' Rights and Obligations, and for the purposes. Third and final reading.
Members of the board, we've had 3 readings. We'll have and 1 card for 16. Mr. Neil Seeley, and then I'll go to Director Adcock and Director Hines.
All right, thank you all. First, before I talk about the ordinance, just you all should know Arkansas Community Organizations supports the resolution for a ceasefire and encourage you to pass it. But we've been before you, and there are things that do need to be adjusted in the ordinance that has been voted on. First, I think Director Hines was right. City codes apply to every rental property. And if we want to highlight or say we're going to pay close attention to certain multifamily, we've got to get all multifamily complexes in. So just the two in the ordinance do not do that, and that needs to be changed and amended. What I do like about even though it's just restating what we already have, what I do like about it is that it is implied in every lease that someone signs in the city. But I think just another ordinance, while good, it brings attention, it's not really doing much. It's just what we already know. So I think the biggest question to deal with is enforce the codes, find the owners, put liens on the property, and just do it. And the second thing is, and so we have members in Fayetteville, and over the last month, they passed an ordinance declaring a housing crisis. And I think we should do that here. Their crisis is not enough land to build affordable housing and the soaring price of rents. We have rents that are I'm not going to use the New York politicians, but too damn high. They're too damn high here. And there are all kinds of fees that tenants have to face. But here we have a serious habitability crisis, and we need to declare it as such. Just passing an ordinance is, while good, and I like the implied in every lease, but we have to have people at the table. We have to declare this is an emergency, we need a task force, and over the next year, we're going to work to address these issues. The other thing is, why repeat that we have a registered agent that is required? What we also need, particularly for tenants and organizers like me, we need to have access to who the owner is. I spent hours trying to figure out who the guy was that ran Big Country Chateau, some guy named Laurent Zaroum. Finally figured out this guy is out of New Jersey, they have this big thing, and then discovered that they were in trouble all over the country. So we can help you, and there are other groups here in the city if we can get around a table, but we're not going to solve this by passing another ordinance that we're not going to enforce. So I think that that's very, very key. This may be a step, but it's not the only step that we want you to take. I think finally, there should be clearly said, no retaliation against tenants for reporting code violations. Okay, we know that happens. There's precedent in state law that says there will be no retaliation for tenants reporting lead in their living quarters. So we should do that and make that clear so that we don't have, renters have almost no rights here in Arkansas. There is no right of action. There's no warrant of habitability with a right of action for tenants. We're going to be working to change that. And if we have to go to the ballot in 2 to 4 years, we're going to do it by petition. But let's amend this ordinance however you want, but don't stop there. The work is not done. The work continues. And we will be back again and again, just as we have been over the last year, to keep this on your radar. And we will continue to work with tenants and organize tenants so that they have 45% of the city rents. We're going to work with renters to give them a voice. Thank you.
Director Adcock.
Yes. Mayor, back in the 90s, we did rental inspection. I chaired that, and we brought together all of the landlords and all of the people. We spent 6 months doing it, and we came up with what today we call rental inspection. I've received 3 telephone calls from different gentlemen who was on that task force, and they wanted to know why we are addressing this again without calling together everyone. They did not know that we was looking at this until Sunday's paper when they saw an article. They request that we put this on either for 2 weeks and give them time to have a meeting, meet with Antoine Phillips and with Kevin Howard and look at what this is, or either have a called meeting next week to pass this. They do not know in detail what we're trying to do. Secondly, I talked to Antoine last Saturday about mobile homes. Nothing in this addresses the problems, which I think is number 1 right now, and that's our mobile home parks. They are on condition that people should not live in. In fact, Chris, of your staff, and the fire chief, when I took them to the mobile home parks, they said, do we expect people to live like this? And I had no answer. At that time, the chief was looking at mobile homes parked there that had no insides in them and was in court for 3 years. We got them out of court so we could demolish them, but we have not done one thing since we got them out of court. I would like to see us add, and I've talked to Director Phillips about this, add mobile homes in this so that we're addressing all people in all living conditions and not just taking apartments and leaving out the mobile homes. So I would like to request that we hold these 3 for 1 week for a special meeting or for 2 weeks for a vote. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Well,
I'm sorry, I tried to reach Director Phillips this afternoon, and I was taking care of some people with some problems that I didn't get solved as soon as I thought I could, so I have not been able to talk to him. I did talk to him some Saturday about the mobile homes to add them to this.
just for clarity, just so everyone understands process, the ordinance has been read 3 times. It is now the time to take a vote from that process. So the motion is invalid at this point in time for item number 16.
Point of order, Mayor. We may have read it 3 times, but the floor is still open for amendments, motions to the effect of deferring, changing it. That's a point of order. I don't see our city attorney here or anybody from the attorney's office.
Director, I'm not disagreeing with you, Director Hines. I'm just making certain that Director Adcock knows, you're correct, there can be amendment to it from that process.
Mayor, my light was on before the clerk started reading this.
Yes, I thought you had a question since you did lead the 3 motions to go to 3 readings.
Because you had already started the meeting.
Yes, ma'am. So, are you making a motion to delay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nays have it.
Roll call, Mayor.
And this is delaying, deferring for 2 weeks or 1 week?
Whichever Director Phillips would like, just so that we have a time to call together the landlords who was part of the rental inspection, explain this to them, and hopefully at that time we come back, all of us agreeing.
Well, if you're asking me, what I would prefer is to vote tonight. We heard from many residents, especially a lady from Autumn Park, that we need to do their dire conditions today. And delaying this only delays her situation. And as another person spoke, said, is this a perfect fix? No. But is this a start? Yes. And we need to start. So I'm not in favor of a deferral. So if you're asking me, Director Adcock, how long I want, today is what I want.
Madam Clerk.
Mayor, I still have my hand up.
There's a motion right now, though.
Yep.
You call a roll call.
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Director Compuris? No. Director Phillips?
No.
Director Adcock?
Yes.
Director Miller?
No.
Director Richardson? Director Peck?
No.
Director Hines,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
No.
Director Wyrick,
No.
Vice Mayor Webb.
No.
Vote of 2 ayes, 7 nays, and 1 absent, so that fails.
Fails. Director Hines?
Thank you. Mine is, since I am not an attorney, and it was brought to my attention, as were many things last Tuesday when this ordinance was presented to us, not in ready for prime time stuff, and we were still making edits on it today at noon, and other folks that I've had looking at this, other attorneys, have not yet had time to look at this. I'm generally supportive of it, but I've got a big question on the Article 10 tenants' rights, the first paragraph, the landlord responsibility for multifamily dwellings. It has a line in here that if the event the owner or landlord of the multifamily housing unit is located outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, then the owner or landlord shall have a designated representative who is located in Little Rock, Arkansas. I don't think we can legally require a representative to be domiciled in the city. And I'm not an attorney. I just had somebody bring this up, and I wish our city attorney was here to give blessing on it, but that's the only thing. It's no different than saying we've got to have police officers, live in Little Rock, or our firefighters or any of our employees or any of my employees have to live in Little Rock, or if they're in the county. I don't know. That's just a question I've got. It's a legal question. And the last thing we need to do is pass something that's not going to meet legal muster, because I guarantee you the first time we cite somebody on this, they're going to court. I know the litigious nature of our landlords. Director Phillips, your law firm represents quite a few of them, as I recall. And so that's my only question, is make sure we do it right. And I don't disagree with you, but I think this seems a bit rushed, since we got an ordinance last Tuesday that was not ready. They were still working on it till noon today, and to delay it 1 or 2 weeks until we make sure we've got it right, I don't think is out of the ordinary. But I will yield to the will of the board on this.
All right. Director Warwick, is your hand up?
Yeah, it's up. Thank you. I have a couple of questions. I love Neil Seeley, and he's been working on housing issues for a long time. And he stated that what we need to do is get in the field and answer the issues, take care of the problems. And he also stated that this was a beginning or first step, but it's not the total answer. And I have to agree with him on that. I'm supportive of moving forward with this, but it can't be the last thing. As I've said a number of times, that we have a lot of reports. We have a lot of people that are taking reports, in other words, ticket takers. But when it comes to work in the field, we don't have enough people, or we're not able to get things done that need to be done. One of the things that I would like to see, and I've talked to Antoine about it, and that is, as Joan stated, the mobile home parks. Some of those are in deplorable state, and we need to figure out a way to address those, like we're trying to address the multifamily that's listed in here. We also need to figure out a way to address the rental property, to make it safe and for the residents to live in. So I'm going to support this tonight, but it can't be the end. We've got to figure out how we can get things done. I've been told that on our rental inspection for our mobile homes, we used to have a big team that was going out and trying to keep them safe, and that we've stopped that. We don't do that anymore. I think rental inspection is the answer to all this, and That entails code enforcement going out and looking at these rental properties. So Antoine, you waved your magic wand for this. Let's trudge forward and try to add other rental properties, add the mobile home parks that we have, and then also, how do we get this work done in the field? One of the things that I think happens is we cite people, they go to court, and it kind of drags on and on and on for a while. And if there's a way we can help fix that, I think that would be awesome. So I'm going to support this tonight, and those are the issues that I still have. And Neil Seeley, thank you for bringing this to us tonight and giving us your ideas. Thank you.
Yeah.
Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. Two things. One, Director Wyrick, I agree with you. I agree with Neil. This is just the first step. I'm committed to continuing this effort, but we do have to start somewhere. And I think there are some positive things here for our tenants and as it relates to enforcement. Secondly, to Mr. Seeley's point, Director Hines was correct last week about the zoning designations. We made that correction in the ordinance that's before us tonight, where it applies to all multifamily. It is not just limited to those zoning designations. So that was a solid point by my colleague, and we made that correction. So that's what we're voting on tonight. And with those two things, Mayor, I would call the question. Or has it been called? I'll call the question.
Question's been called. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Don't I have to have a second to call the question?
Second, you're correct. Sorry about that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it for the question being called. We've already had 3 readings. Members of the board have visited and shared comments. Members of the community have shared comments. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. Is there a question?
I'm sorry. Did Director Wyrick second to call the question? I did. You did? Okay, thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, if you'll read item number 17.
A resolution to direct the Housing and Neighborhood Programs Department to publish Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapter 8, Article 10, Tenants' Rights, on the city's website to promote and educate tenants on their rights regarding the city's implied housing quality standards and for other purposes.
Resolution.
Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those
Mayor,
opposed, say nay.
Nay.
We didn't have a motion and a second that I heard.
It's a resolution.
You still have to have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution, Mayor.
All right. Motion for the resolution.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 18.
A resolution to direct the Housing and Neighborhood Programs Department to provide the Board of Directors on a quarterly basis with a list of multifamily dwellings that have been inspected pursuant to Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapter 8, Article 8, rental inspections, including unsafe and vacant properties to be considered for remediation pursuant to ACA Section 14-54-904 and for other purposes.
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 19 for the first time. Well, let me open up the public hearing. If you please read item for the first time.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a plan development commercial titled Dworkin STR2 PDC, located at 4305 North Lookout Road, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place this on second reading.
There's a motion. There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a plan development commercial titled Dworkin STR2 PDC located at 4305 North Lookout Road, second reading.
Move for the suspension of the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion, there's a second. All in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, third reading.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a plan development commercial titled Dworkin STR2 PDC located at 4305 North Lookout Road, third and final reading.
All right, members of the board, we've had 3 readings. We'll now have a part of this public hearing. We have 3 for, 2 against. Mr. Thomas Wyatt.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. It's good to see the Board of Directors again. My name is Tom Wyatt. My address is 111 Center Street. I'm an attorney with Quattlebaum, Grooms, and Toll. It's my pleasure to represent M. Scott Properties, which is the appellee on the application before you today from the Planning Commission denial. I will mention on the front end that the Planning Department reviewed the application, approved the site plan, including those issues for traffic, and the applicant paid the required fees. I believe the only condition to the application's approval was that there was a requirement for a life safety inspection. Other than that, I would like to introduce Janet Bailey. She's the principal for M. Scott Properties. She has the next comment card, I believe, Mayor Scott, and we would request privilege for her to speak at this time.
We'll go back and forth. So,
Okay, thank you,
all
Your
right.
Honor.
We'll now go to Ms. Susan Bridges.
Hi. I'm Susan Bridges, and I'm here with my neighbors, and I'm kind of the spokesperson representing the 8 of us that live on our little section of North Lookout Street. Unfortunately, Suzanne Aubrey can't be with us tonight because she's put her father in hospice, and my husband is out of town for the same reason my 94-year-old father-in-law is also taken ill. So, I live at 4307 North Lookout Street with my husband, John, and our son, Colin, who's a med student. Our home is located next door to the Dworkin short-term rental property at 4305 North Lookout. And when I say next door, I mean exactly 9 feet 4 inches from the property. So I think I can speak to some of the issues that we have faced along with my neighbors. We've had several incidences, beginning with the first incident in February of 2023. I contacted the management personally 6 times over the past 15 months for noisy parties, blocked access to our homes, multiple instances of parking in driveways that do not belong to the short-term rental property, trash issues, and 1 assault and battery issue. In our neighborhood of smaller, older homes that front Alsip Park, our 6 homes can only be accessed from the back via a narrow alleyway between Rose Streets and Walnut Streets. The Dworkin short-term rental property is a 5,325 square foot house with multiple balconies, a home theater, and a rooftop entertaining area, including a hot tub. At the time of our meeting with the Department of Planning and Development on February 8th, 2024, the house was listed on Airbnb as, quote, a Hillcrest luxury with rooftop view, theater, and sleeps 12. It features 5 bedrooms, 7 beds, 6 bathrooms, and rented at the time for $480 a night. The large size of this house and featured amenities attracts party groups, and this clearly creates an issue for the actual residents. My greatest concern with this short-term rental is safety for myself and my neighbors in our quiet little pocket of Hillcrest adjacent to the park. Asking drunk and or high partying guests to please move their vehicles later at night in order for me to reach my own home is uncomfortable and frankly unsafe when you are one person forced to confront a large group of people. My neighbor on the other side of me is a disabled veteran, and I'm concerned that fire and ambulance services would be unable to access our homes if needed during these situations, and that is frankly unacceptable. There have been sanitary concerns over the large amounts of trash spilling out of the trash cans after large groups have stayed. Guests are often unreliable when it comes to putting trash bins out so it doesn't get picked up. Guests frequently place trash in the recycle bins, which means neither trash nor the recycling services will empty it, and thus it festers, reeks, invites rodents. Another neighbor had the guests filling her trash cans with overflow and finally had to place signs on her cans to let guests know what is and is not part of the short-term rental property. The worst situation happened to us at 6:40 a.m. as I went to the kitchen to get coffee before work and witnessed a male guest slapping and punching and choking a female guest in the driveway. My husband called the police while I notified the manager's number that was given to us, both in a voicemail and a text. My husband was concerned that violent people could potentially retaliate in a violent way since they would know that the house next door, quote, called the cops. Although this hasn't happened, the thought has still crossed our minds. Again, safety for residents who up until this past year have never had a reason to be concerned has now become very real. In each case, the manager was contacted, the residents wait while the various situations are sorted out, but there has never been a long-term solution. At the time of these incidences, the manager and the company that she works for were located in Hot Springs. The owner, Dr. Joel Dorkin, lives in Arizona. This removes the responsible parties from these situations and places the responsibility of calling and reporting problems with guests, trash, storm damage on the residents that actually live there. I've been asked by the manager to check and see if the trash is put out, if the cars have moved, if the police have showed up. And frankly, this is not my responsibility. When we moved into our home 15 years ago, the property next door was a private residence and our street was exactly that, residential. This is not a commercial area. I emailed each of you on the board of directors, the city clerk, and the mayor's office exactly this conversation about my opposition to it, along with the text messages from the short-term rental property that includes the date, specific incidents, and in some cases, photos to verify these incidences. My texts have been nice, and I've always tried to stay polite and do the right thing. The house has been mostly unoccupied since our meeting in February, but low occupancy does not change the past, and nor does it erase the strong concerns of our neighbors. There are 8 residents on our quiet end of North Lookout Street, and allowing a short-term rental where the number of guests allowed is greater than the number of actual residents on our street is unreasonable. So please understand that we and I strongly oppose this commercial short-term rental property on our street. Thank you.
Ms. Janet Bailey.
Good evening. My name is Janet Bailey. I am the owner and operator of M. Scott Properties and the property manager for 4305 North Lookout Point, owned by Joel Dorkin. I'm standing here today in hopes that you will overturn our ruling for the short-term rental application that was denied in February. M. Scott Properties is a small business based in Hot Springs. We manage roughly 40 properties within our company, of those 28 being active Airbnbs. We have a 4.9 overall star rating on Airbnb with a 99% response rate. We do not advertise, we are not on Google, and we grow our business solely on face-to-face interactions and word-of-mouth referrals. It is important for us to stay small so we can continue to faithfully serve our guests, clients, and neighbors with the best care possible. We also only use one platform to advertise our listings so that we are diligent in guest communication, responsiveness, and most importantly, in ensuring that we have the highest quality guests possible. M. Scott Properties really started by accident. It began as a means to provide for my family while attending college full-time. When our one-income household began to struggle, I started Ubering on the weekends, and I put myself out there to anyone that needed their house clean. I loaded up my car with a mop, a broom, and a hope and a prayer that someone would call me for the services I could offer them in between being a mom, a wife, and a full-time student. By the time I graduated, I had a full business behind me and took a leap of faith in owning my own company. When I asked my business consultant what I would ever name my company, he told me to name it something with meaning, and I would never fail. My commitment would be greater, and that my strive to be the best I could be would always be at the forefront of my efforts. So for me, there was only one choice: to name it after the life and legacy of our late son, Matthew Bailey. M. Scott Properties is founded for the sole purpose of serving others. Whether that be our clients, our guests, or our neighbors, we do everything with well intentions, with love, and with integrity. This isn't just my business. M. Scott Properties is my life. The relationship I build with my guests and clients are important to me. I've raised my kids in the very kitchens that I manage. I've had great opportunities to to be the host that made summer vacations great for others while sacrificing time, holidays, and vacations away from my own family. I've gotten to know the families I've had the honor to serve over the years, and they mean something to me. I know my clients' kids. I've been able to watch them grow up. I know their dogs' names, the way they like the toilet paper hung, and how Aunt Sue is doing from last summer, all while keeping their American dream afloat with these small business properties that I have the privilege to care for. The very people that sit beside me are supported by the small business we have created. This is a family business. This is a friend business. This is not your run-of-the-mill management company. It is an example of literal blood, sweat, and tears that make sure others are taken care of. While this is a means to support my family and the families in which we employ, our purpose goes far beyond anything monetary values could ever bring me. I would like to present the board with the packets to show a few of our recent reviews from guests who have stayed in our home on Lookout, as well as letters from Joel Dorkin, our other current clients. And there's also some other reviews in there as well. And I'll continue to go over that as I go. Little Rock has always been a home away from home for me. It's a city my family and I visit often, from Thursday night bread baskets at Samantha's to fantastic breakfast at the Red Door. The Little Rock has captured my heart and is the keeper of priceless family memories. Assuming this property was my opportunity to share my love for Little Rock and the Hillcrest neighborhood with all who come to stay with us. When the tornado hit last year, our staff was up the next day with chainsaws in hand. We volunteered for 3 tireless days serving various neighborhoods in Little Rock to ensure trees were cut away, roofs were tarped, and that our Little Rock neighbors were loved and their basic needs were met within the means in which we could offer them. I took over Joel Dorkin's property in August of '22. When I received the property into my care, it was in complete shambles. The yard was unkept. The house was overrun by insects, infested with termites. The smoke and safety alarms were not functioning, etc. It took several months for us to get the house in usable condition. In November of '22, we opened the house as a short-term rental. Since the opening of the home, we've had roughly 50 groups of people visiting from all over the world. The home is well equipped to host 12 people and 6 vehicles comfortably, featuring amenities such as floor-to-ceiling windows, a home theater, a hot tub on the roof, and a beautiful 2-way fireplace on the main floor. This is a one-of-a-kind rental that allows adults to come and stay and enjoy the home, to relax while enjoying all of the great things the city of Little Rock has to offer. We provide each guest with custom handpicked guide for our favorite things in Little Rock, often sending our guests to family-owned businesses for shopping, attractions, and foods, helping to support the small business market and the very bloodline that makes Little Rock so great. Given the uniqueness of the home, we definitely had some challenges in the beginning. We thought we could run the home as successfully as we did with the other ones, but we quickly realized that our business model was not working. We faced challenges with excessive trash, noisy guests, occupancy violations, and various small complaints from our neighbors. Rather than ignore the issues at hand, we pivoted our business model, changed the marketing on the home, began requesting large deposits, rental agreements, copies of their driver's license, and stopped local residents from renting our home. Included in the packet are also examples of communication with our guests, implementing these policies, as well as a copy of our house rules. We have refused more bookings than we have accepted to ensure that we have the best guests possible. When I attended the Planning Commission meeting back in February, I was completely blindsided by the allegations the neighbors brought before the board. Many of the neighbors that attended I'd never personally seen or spoken to. I would like to take this opportunity to address the board with the complaints and the concerns the neighbor had, first starting with the traffic. At the last meeting, one of the neighbors stated that guests from our property drove through his yard. This was the first time I had ever heard of this concern. It was also presented to the board without facts or photos to back up the allegation. The home in question has a hefty curb that surrounds it, a large tree in the corner of the lot, making it nearly impossible for anybody to drive through it without creating significant damage to their vehicle or to the landscaping of the yard. I've included photos of the neighbor's yard and the entrance of the alleyway for the board to see. Our parking on our listing states only 6 vehicles allowed at any time, no parking in the alley or the gravel driveway next to the home. It also warns guests that if rules are violated, vehicles could be towed at the owner's expense. We monitor our cameras and do random drive-bys during recent guest stays to ensure that vehicles, occupancy, and noise are kept within the compliance of our house rules. The same neighbor said that MSCOT Properties was a national entity based out of Nevada. This is false. We are not on any public platform. We're not on Yelp, Google, Facebook, or any other mainstream media. We are a small Arkansas-based business with no intention of ever growing to a corporate level. Another instance, we got a call about music coming from the roof. We addressed the current guests right away, and they quieted down. The day they checked out, we disconnected the speakers from the home and no longer made them an available amenity to our guests. Our neighbor to the right had issues with the trash cans being used by our guests. Her trash cans are located directly next to our driveway, which can be confusing for guests who do not know the space. We placed a large sign in front of her can to ensure our guests would know not to use them. She took the sign down and then continued to complain about the use of her cans. On another occasion, the same neighbor called about the trash cans being used. I went over there the same day that she called, completely cleaned out her trash cans, and washed them with soap and water before returning them. A few days later, she dumped spoiled food and trash directly on our doorstep, admitting it at the last Planning Commission meeting in February. I've also included those photos as well. To help combat the trash issue, we have done everything from ordering additional cans to doing our due diligence to make sure they are placed at the curb, and if they have been full before pickup, we have hauled the excessive trash to the dump. One evening, we had a guest check-in late on a Thursday. Their reservation was for 3 days. Early Friday morning, it ended in a domestic disturbance call that the neighbors informed me of. I immediately went to the home to respond to the issue that was reported from me. While I never saw the police, I was able to make contact with my guests who were asked to leave right away with no refund on the remaining days. While this was an unfortunate situation, it was an isolated event that we've never had an issue like this over here ever, and as well as the other properties that we manage. Anytime we have been called about a complaint or concern with our neighbors, we have been extremely responsive to them. We do not take them lightly. Even the smallest concerns we address as quickly as we can. One of the neighbors said that I was depending on her to do my managerial duties by asking about the trash and if the police arrived during the domestic violence call. One thing I need to make crystal clear to the board, I have never asked a neighbor to do anything for me. These were mere follow-up questions to the concerns she has had that we addressed. Asking about the trash was to make sure her current concerns were heard, addressed, and that she was satisfied with the outcome, never with the intention of her to ever do my job. When we opened Mr. Dorkin's home, I made sure the neighbors had my cell phone number. I shook hands. I let them know that I would be available if there was a need. Some of the neighbors even had my husband's cell phone number just in case I could not be reached. Anytime the neighbors had concerns, they were addressed immediately. Our goal from the beginning has been nothing but to be good neighbors to the residents who surround us. We've been friendly, communicative to them, and have even shared contacts and resources, such as our yard person, to help them with their own home. We have always had their best interest in mind. The neighbors expressed concerns about my inadequacy to properly manage a home in Little Rock, given the distance where I reside. One thing they have failed to realize is that we have an amazing team to assist us, and staff who reside in the Little Rock area should immediate need arise. Some of their job duties include responding to guest needs, occupancy and noise drive-by to ensure our guests are doing what we expect of them. We also employ full support staff to assist with the maintenance, cleanliness, and upkeep of the home. If you are an MSCOT property employee and have serviced Mr. Dorkin's home on Lookout Point, please stand up. Since the February board meeting, we suspended the listing on the rental platform to no longer accept new reservations. We canceled existing reservations, which affected our superhost status and the income we depend on to take care of our families and our employees. We have continued to maintain the home at no cost to our client to ensure that it stays in good standings, not just for Mr. Dorkin, but for the neighborhood it sits in. We continue to maintain the yard, continue general maintenance on the home, and quarterly pest control, all of which were not in place when we started. For the problems we have had in the past, I truly and sincerely apologize to our neighbors. We really do strive to be the best management team we can be, and I'm sorry that I have fallen short a few times. Our commitment to our neighbor far surpasses the revenue. If there is a compromise with the neighbors to come up with a satisfactory outcome for all parties, we would be willing to join them in a roundtable meeting or a meeting of middle grounds, even if that means lowering our occupancy or implementing other guidelines. We have never wanted to be a problem. We want to be a part of the Hillcrest neighborhood and not have the neighborhood against us. Thank you.
Mr. Daniel Littleton.
Yes, I believe I marked the card wrong. I'm actually opposing that. I live on 4401 North Lookout, right off the corner of the alley. Just to put this in perspective, most of these houses are 2,000 square feet. And in Hillcrest, like, if you have a yard, which I currently do not, space is very limited. So I have 2 small children. We frequently take walks around the neighborhood. The alleyway is one of the main places we start our walk because we live on a steep incline hill. They'll be getting ready to ride bikes pretty soon. That'll be the area they're riding the bikes. Currently, in my driveway, we can fit 2 cars in there max. What they're talking about, they can fit 6 cars in there at one time. We're basically talking about a parking lot in an area of a single car alley. They'll have traffic coming in all hours of the night. I understand that they've addressed some of those concerns, but let's just call it what it is. It's a party house. It's a party house in a neighborhood that would literally outnumber all the residents of the street if at max capacity. I frequently travel for work. My wife fears for safety. We've seen out-of-state plates from California, Louisiana, Texas, all over the place. People we do not know. I understand they have a vetting process, but these are people that we don't know. I know my neighbors. I frequently see my neighbors on walks. I've walked by the house before. The lot was full of cars, having a big party there. I'm assuming all hours of the night. That's all I've got to say. Thanks.
Pam Isom.
Hello. I'm here as a property owner that Janet and M. Scott Properties manages. She's managed my property for several years. And the location that she manages, we have 5 neighbors also in close proximity. We've never really had any major issues from neighbors complaining. I think maybe one time there's been a noise complaint and Janet got on it immediately. We've had a few things like changing a light bulb, getting a hot water heater replaced, deck repair issues, and Janet's always jumped right on it. So as far as non-responsiveness, I can say that is not a concern. Last year, my personal home was hit by the tornado, and Janet was one of the very first people to reach out to me, and she doesn't owe me that. I'm her employer. So as far as, being responsive, wanting to help people, caring about neighbors, I can definitely speak to that. She was one of the first people to ask me if we needed help clearing trees or any kind of cleanup. And again, she lives in Hot Springs and wanted to come here to help me. She's an exceptional property manager that not only takes great care of our home and our guests, but has great respect for the neighbors in our surrounding area. And I hope you will allow her the opportunity to continue servicing this property. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Webb.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. I think the neighbors spoke very well about the issues they've had with this property. I want to ask a question. I'm not sure if it's for Jamie. We have been discussing the fact that we need to have a general policy discussion about short-term rentals. And I wanted to know, and it could be for Acting City Manager Cox, do we have that scheduled yet? And when will we have that?
June 25 is the plan.
Okay, thank you. I think Mrs. Bridges made a very good case about the property and the issues that we've had. And I know that the neighborhood association agrees with the neighbors and does not support this property. Thank you.
Thank you, members of the board. Believe we've now, just make sure, had 3 readings. I went through all the questions. I'm going to close the hearing. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay.
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 Nays have it. Well, now, before we go to executive session, just because I know many people may disperse, I just want to publicly share appreciation to members of the City of Little Rock Board of Directors, as we just completed a few weeks, about a month and a half of community meetings across each ward, and each of you all were able to attend one or more than one throughout that period of time. And so I wanted to share appreciation to you all for being there as we all listened and learned from the community. I want to share appreciation to our team members who helped make certain that each location was reserved, had adequate technology, was opened up, closed on time, and worked with the community to have community locations open for us. So we want to share that appreciation. What we will do is the team is going to gather a lot of the questions that were held at each meeting, compile that into a frequently asked questions document that will go online, but we also will get that information to members of the city board from that standpoint. As I shared, particularly at the last two board meetings and many of you are aware, I'll share it individually, if not with all, but most. We'll make some changes to the proposed plan. We will increase infrastructure spending, and we also will increase public safety fleet for fire and police. Part of that proposal. As you all know, with anything, if you increase something, you got to subtract from somewhere else within the plan. We'll work through that and make certain that we don't discourage any of you all with things that you all know that you have in there that you've personally advocated and shared with me. So that onus is on me to get that to you all. And so my goal is within the next 2 weeks to have a new revised plan based on the feedback from the residents, based on feedback from each of you. And one of the things that we heard was increased funding for infrastructure and public safety fleet. And so we will do that. And again, between that time of getting the recap of those meetings, I'll be meeting with you all individually in case there's anything extra as well. But we do know one of the reoccurring themes was increased funding for infrastructure and for fire, part of the public safety fleet allocation. As we shared, from a fleet standpoint, those dollars are utilized from economies of scale on purchasing at the best price. And so the best thing for fleet is to increase that so they'll be very good for fire. I know that was one of the, a big concern as well. And so again, there's some other things I know that we'll make some tweaks on, but the significant changes that you'll see will be in infrastructure and fire and public safety. But again, want to share that appreciation. We'll get you the FAQs here soon from that standpoint. And before we do a motion to go into recess for the executive session, I see Director Phillips' hands up, and then Director Capers.
Yeah, Mayor, I just wanted to see if you would take this opportunity to inform the public about the street naming ceremony tomorrow.
Yes, we did it earlier this morning. I know the news has picked it up, but earlier this morning, as you all are aware, and have been, we did a media advisory release to do a formal unveiling of Bruce T. Moore Way at 9:30 a.m. On Arch Street, directly adjacent to City Hall, going west, rather. And so we'll make sure we get that correct.
Arch goes north and south.
Well, I'm going west of City Hall is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you're right, Arch is north and south. I'm topographically challenged, so I do apologize. But you all have, that's the reason why we sent out the press release with all the directions. But again, as we take this time to honor the life, the legacy of our dear friend, our dear brother, Bruce T. Moore, longest serving city manager in Little Rock's history. And we're so very grateful for him and all he's given to this city. We know how much we love him, how much we adore Luke and his family. And we ask everyone continue to please be in prayer for Luke and the entire Moore family. Director Campiris?
Mayor, I appreciate the schedule moving forward, but when are we going to have something in hand that we can discuss in public?
That'll be that schedule I just shared with you. Yeah, I just lined that out. So that'll be all public. Yeah. But everything, and just so you, Director Pierce, everything that we've discussed thus far is all online. Every chart, everything, but the changes, you'll get that, and we'll discuss. That'll be public.
And I appreciate that, and I want this. I think the receptions, I went to 5 of 7, and I thought the reception overall was very good. Some people, unfortunately, got bogged down to their street, what we're going to do on that rather than globally, but that's what happens in a town meeting. But we need to make this the board's proposal, and the sooner we discuss this in public, that's when it'll become 11 people's.
Yeah, it has to be. That's the only way possible. I
That's the
agree.
reason
It
I'm
can't happen without the city board.
You know, whether we like it or not, well, I do like it because summer is here and we'll be all leaving, and at least I'm gonna go my normal YMCA camp, but the sooner we get, to me, discussing this in public with all of us having input, the better off we're gonna be.
I totally agree.
Move to go to executive session.
Well, did you, I think
Yeah, I got
Director
my
Miller.
hand up, but
Director Miller?
sometimes it's probably just need to blurt out. Thanks, Mayor, for the recognition. I want to make sure I understand that this Thursday, June the 6th, is the final day for comments on the downtown master plan, and that after the 6th, we will have the final plan that we can take a look at. Because it was my understanding that they were waiting to get input. They had surveys, and it was June 6th was going to be the deadline on that. Because that's something, obviously, I think we probably need to talk about too, once that's finalized, because they're going to have all these recommendations, and then people are going to ask us, how you're going to pay for it or which ones you're going to adopt. But I believe I'm correct in saying Thursday, June the 6th is the final for that, and we should be receiving the final plan from the planners.
I'm sorry, Mayor. They're going to present to the city board too, correct?
Yeah, I don't think Thursday, June 6th, I'll get you the timeline, but it's Thursday, June 6th is the deadline for comments. I don't think the city board will get it to sometime in July, late July.
Okay.
That final plan will be presented to us
And sometime in July.
But June 6th is
for public comment.
Yeah, in the city, both the downtown partnership, we've all been sending on our social media channels the deadline.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
And before we go in executive session, as I shared those significant increases, is there anything between now and when we have those proposed changes that any member of the city board wants to say anything today about it
And just to be clear on that, Mayor,
in regards to sales tax?
as it relates to the sales tax, we get that in 2 weeks, and then I guess we're going to schedule a policy discussion where we can talk about.
Yeah, it's going to be my goal to have a policy discussion on June 25th along with the short-term rentals. We're going to have to spend a longer time because at the end of the day, if everything is best case scenario is one, I want to be very clear. This has to be a united front to be successful. And it doesn't happen without majority of the city board. We want to make certain that we get majority of the city board there. And what I've seen is a very good tenor from each of you on this. I'm very grateful for that. I think that's very positive out the gate. There's always details that we got to get worked out. But from what I've heard from many of you all is that infrastructure and fire is the main thing. And then everyone has their own individual issues. And so if I subtract one way and And what I've heard from you all want me to take that brunt so you all don't have to deal with that. That's what you all told me, so I'll take that brunt. That's part of leadership. But what I wanted to know as we go into this 2-week process before June 25th, where we'll have the policy discussion on that, is there anything besides infrastructure and fire that needs to be addressed? I know I've talked to a few people already offline, so for those, they don't have to say anything unless they got something burning desire, but I want to be, Director Miller, do you have anything?
Well,
And if you got something later, that's fine, but if there's anything you just want to,
I mean, just based on the ordinances or the ordinance that we passed, it deals with inspections. I want to make sure that in the sales tax, we're going to be able to implement the, the ordinance requirements. I mean, that's one thing that I'm hearing loud and clear. Certainly, Neil talked about, nice having an ordinance. It's good to have that, but the real proof of it is going to be the enforcement. And so I want to make sure that I'm comfortable, and I'm sure other members of this board are comfortable, that we pass this ordinance and that we can enforce it. And if enforcement means having additional personnel or however that works, then I think we have to have a real discussion about that because, again, I'm like Neil, having the ordinance is great, but the real strength of it is enforcement. And so I want to make sure we have that discussion.
sure, and code enforcement is included in there, that we'll have, I believe, an additional 7 code enforcement officers with vehicles, which is pretty hefty in a number. Director Peck, anything? Director Computers, I think, you just made your comments. Director Wyatt?
You and I had a conversation yesterday, and I'm all about nuts and bolts.
Yes, ma'am.
And
It's a part of my language.
nuts and bolts is just not infrastructure. It's just not streets and drainage, but it also involves code enforcement, quality of life, police and fire. So to me, those are nuts and bolts. Went to a meeting last night and just briefly introduced some of the topics to the group, and they seem to be along the same lines that I do.
Yes, ma'am.
And so it was a very small group, but it seems to be the thread of information that I'm getting is that we really need to beef up
But
those
nuts and
types of
bolts.
things.
Director Adcock? We can come, okay. Director Hines? All right. Director Webb, anything? We got you.
So just to make sure I'm clear, we won't see those changes, the dollar amounts for 2 more weeks. Is that correct?
Well, as soon as we make those changes, we'll get those to you. That's that's being very clear. And we'll get that sent to you all. But what I'm going to be very clear about what I just shared is that we're getting all the priorities, get all the FAQs to the public and to you all. And we are visiting with each of you all on the changes, which will help make the change. And as soon as we get that in a proposed manner, we'll get that to the city board and we'll have a discussion about it on the 25th. If not before, if we can do it earlier, we can do it earlier. We don't have anything to present at this time.
Thank you.
All right. Director Lewis?
Sounds good.
All right. There's a motion on the floor to go to executive session.
Mayor, you're not going to ask me?
Oh, I'm sorry, Director Lewis. I thought you had already said something. You asked a question about the sales tax.
Yeah, I did. And I think what I want to be clear on is that you're going to make those changes, and then we will get it in time before the June 25th meeting, so we have time to review, so we can have a fruitful discussion on June 25th.
Yes. But I want to be very clear, the changes, there's only a few places that you can go, and so it's not going to be
And I'm not saying you got to redo it, and I'm not telling you what to do. I just want to make sure that what you give us, we have time to think and consider before we have the discussion on June 25th.
As soon as we can get it done and get it to you all, but we'll have the entire meeting to discuss too. But that doesn't, we're not making the decision on the 25th.
No, I understand it, but I'm saying to have the discussion, you want to have the.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I move that we go to executive session.
Let me, one other.
Well, Director Miller?
I'm sorry.
No, that's why we have it, so no rush. Let's talk as freely as possible.
The presentation about the downtown master plan is going to be when?
That's not to July.
July, and so it's going to be before the 25th? I mean, my deal is,
Maybe this is better. The deadline for the downtown master plan comments is June the 6th.
I understand that.
It's going to take Sasaki at least 30 days to get that together, their own travel plans to get back here. And so it won't be, I don't have an actual date, but it'll be sometime in July. And I believe I think they got into August, to be quite frank.
I mean, and that's where I'm kind of struggling, because if we're going to have a discussion about the sales tax before we get the downtown master plan finalized, I'm trying to sync up the two.
Well, let me give you the timelines for this way. I understand. Well, I would say this as well. There's about $100 million worth of downtown master plan items that are included in the sales tax. If you got any concerns about the downtown master plan, a part of sales tax, I would encourage you all to talk with the downtown master plan folks between now and then. From a timing perspective, we have to have it on the ballot, we have to have it passed from the sales tax passed from the city board at least 70 days before the election. We also have to campaign for election. One of the things we talked about last year when I decided to pull it back, because we spent a lot of time talking about, not a lot of time focused on the tornado, rightly so. We didn't have enough time after we finished the community meetings to even start that process as far as the voting with the city board and a campaign. So clearly I can't direct anything with you all, but the time, if we're trying to match up that, the time is not going to work as it relates to getting to the ballot and campaigning, because we got to educate the public. So I just want to be very clear that if you got concerns, I would suspect, I mean, there's going to be some changes to the downtown master plan, but I don't suspect drastic changes between now and then. This really is like, hey, this is what we're thinking about. Do you got any issues with it for 30 days? So what you see in the downtown master plan, unless there's an onslaught of negativity towards something, that's going to largely be the master plan that you all see, more than like if I was a betting person. So what I would encourage in these next 2 weeks, for those who want, if we need to get you to meet with some of the downtown master plan folks the next 2 weeks, let's do that. But there's not going to be much, I'm not going to say it's not going to be much changes, but generally what happens is this public comment period, if you got feedback, it can make some changes, but it won't be drastic. I don't see that, but it could. Also, I'm going to be very clear there. So board members, if you got any concerns with downtown master plan, please get with Gabe Holstrom between now and the 25th. And I'm sure he can give some insight, Director Miller, after June 6th and between June 25th to say, hey, here's some outliers that you may be aware of. I think with you being Ward 1 Director, you'll get a close look if I was a betting man. All right, Director Wyrick?
Mayor, it's a different topic.
Sure.
Okay. In citizens' communications tonight, we heard about a house where there were children and no water. And I wanted to enlist your help in trying to get something done with that. Code enforcement actually did some citations in February. They were asked to come to court in March. There was a failure to appear. I got involved in April. There were some children that were living in that home without water. They do have electricity. The situation that I worked on last week is that we notified the fire department, the police department, and Kevin Howard helped and assisted in that. And I was told that the children had moved to a hotel, that they were not living in the home. So the report tonight was that they were there. So we've got a couple of kiddos that are living in a house without all the utilities that they need, and I'm just not sure which direction to go at this point. So the address is 8613 Tedburn. Neighbors across the street next door are continuing to be concerned about those children. I'm concerned about them. There was some thought that maybe DHS would be notified of the kids, but that hasn't happened. And like I said, the last report I had was that they were living in a hotel and not living in the home, but now I'm hearing that they're probably back to the home. They were not using doors to get in the building. They were climbing through the windows. So it's a really sad situation, trying to uncover exactly what's going on there.
Sure, and just so everyone's aware, and adding on to what Director Warwick has shared, that housing has been to Autumn Park. At the time when they went, there were not a lot of these issues that were shared with us today. There were some issues were noticed, sent out from that standpoint, and they'll be back out very soon as well, and in addition to working on things you just shared, Director Warwick. All right, and then, let's see if I can make sure I got everything.
Oh, Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone had received the February 24 monthly financial report. Ashley emailed that to everyone on May 16th.
All right. Sounds like received. All right. And then, well, I already talked about that again on timeline. The goal is to have a meeting on June 25th. And we're going to try to get the FAQs out to you all here shortly. Just to kind of review for those who didn't go to every ward meeting, you just kind of get a sense of everything. I know Director Compures and Director Adcock and Phillips, I know they made, and Director Miller made and Director Warwick. I would think a lot of you all made a lot of the meetings now I started thinking about it. So, but just want to make sure everyone gets that tenor sense of them. We'll shoot for a June 25th meeting. Get the FAQs to you, and after I visit with each of you individually as best I can, and like I said, I've talked to a few of you already, and you all have shared things with me. I'm going to try to get that done within the week, plus the FAQs, and then so that'll make things, as we make changes, that the conversation is a lot fruitful on June 25th. Everyone okay? Everyone understand that timeline? Everyone just wave their hands, they understand the timeline. Online, can y'all wave your hands if you understand the timeline? All right, we'll make sure we're clear. All right. Thank you. We got a motion? We're not doing that, Director. We got a motion and a second to go to executive session? All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Recess to executive session. boards and commissions. Public Safety Commission, Connor Thompson and Kate Moffitt. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. ADA, Pamela Morton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Pamela Morton. Historic District Commission, Tom Fennell and Christina Alamine. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Community Housing Advisory Board, Carrie Brady and Jacqueline Wright. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Oaklawn Cemetery, Mary McVie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Ratification of.
Oh, ratification of Mr. Nick Roy for the AMP Commission. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.